Good morning, Digit fam. Adam Dowd here on the other side of Easter, and now that whole dying for our sin stuff is out of the way, we can focus on more important matters like Avengers Endgame coming up this weekend, and I have to wonder, is it even possible for this movie to be epic enough to live up to the hype? Sadly, probably not, but we have a ways to go before we get there, and for now, it is April 22nd, 2019, and this is your Digit Daily. Now gather round, children. Grandpa wants to tell you a story about a strange time before there was the iPhone. You see, back when I was just a lad, walking 16.5 miles to school uphill both ways, and then going to work in the coal mine until daybreak, we didn't have no fancy phones to play Fruit Ninja or watch YouTubes. When we went on vacation, we drove, because flying was for rich folk. So, while we drove from New York to Chicago and then down south to Texas, all we had to entertain ourselves with was books. Unless we could beg our parents into letting us play a cassette tape in the car's tape deck, and let me tell you, that didn't always go over well. Until one day, 30 years and one day ago, Nintendo brought us something unimaginable. Mobile gaming. And it was magical. It was the Game Boy, and it revolutionized the coal mining break room forever. But seriously, when the Game Boy came out 30 years ago, and yes, I was alive for when that happened, it changed everything. Suddenly, you could play Tetris everywhere. Tetris in the car, Tetris at school, Tetris in the coal mine, Tetris at dinner. No! Never at the dinner table, you heathens! But when the Game Boy launched, you could pick one of 4 games to come with it: Super Mario Land, Baseball, Alleyway, and Yakuman. Later, the real revolution happened and Nintendo started bundling in Tetris. And at the time, the Game Boy wasn't the most revolutionary device. It was monochrome, had terrible sound, and it was basically a small brick. Other consoles out at the time included the Atari Lynx, which my family also had but rarely played, and the Sega Game Gear. The Game Boy used very well-established tech without a lot of fancy new things, which was part of the strategy of designer Gunpei Yokoi. This thing had 30 hours of battery life on 4 AA batteries. Oh, and the Game Boy launched for under $100, first at $94 and then at $89, and eventually sold more than 118 million units worldwide. And the Game Boy continues to live today. As outlined by the LA Times, there's a whole subculture out there of Game Boy modders who can add custom paint jobs, backlit screens, because, by the way, the original Game Boy didn't have a backlit screen, and even modifications to create chiptune music, which is music created using the music synthesizers built into the Game Boy. I'm sure you already noticed by now, but the normal bed of music that we play here has been replaced by stunningly retro chiptune music. Let's listen more closely for a second, and thanks to YouTube channel Boxitus, link in the show notes for the tunes. Personally, yes, I had a couple of different Game Boys in my youth, and I dare say I was pretty decent at Tetris. Do I miss it? Sure. There's that comfortable feeling of a giant brick in your hand and a pack of 2D games that I didn't completely suck at. So yes, I remember the Game Boy fondly, and yes, mine still works. And you know what else works? The roundup! Over the weekend, Samsung announced delays in shipping its innovative yet problematic Galaxy Fold, and now we're hearing rumors after the newsletter was published this morning that the US launch may be delayed by as much as a month as well. And honestly, that's the right move for Samsung. Get ahead of this and figure out exactly where the problem is, and get it fixed before you start shipping out a $2,000 potentially problematic device. So far, Samsung has handled this well, and though it should be mentioned, Samsung has had a fair bit of practice at putting out PR fires. Last year, OnePlus made a splash by releasing the OnePlus 6T on a US carrier, T-Mobile, something that few Chinese brands have been able to do so far. Whether or not that strategy has paid off is still up for debate, but I mean, it sold me. But now, OnePlus is looking to hire a senior technical account manager for AT&T, Verizon, and Sprint, who will essentially oversee the technical specifications needed to bring a phone to those carriers as well. Seems the T-Mobile exclusive thing won't last much longer, and that's exciting news for the little OEM that could. Tesla is holding an autonomous driving event for investors today, and Elon Musk is set to talk about technologies and plans for driverless cars perhaps by the end of 2020. Now, to be clear, Teslas are not driverless cars yet, and Elon will be talking to investors, so I think legally his BS meter needs to ride pretty low. So just what will he promise, and will the SEC be angry about it? Stay tuned. And speaking of Tesla, a new video surfaced over the weekend seemingly showing SpaceX's new space vehicle exploding during a safety test, which it presumably failed. And proving how inept humans still are at security, a recent audit showed that 23 million people used the password 123456, which is amazing because it's the same combination I have in my luggage. And yes, I had to get that in there because Spaceballs is the best movie ever. But what I don't get is why. First of all, 123456 won't work on most websites I use because they require at least letters and numbers. Second of all, 123456 isn't even that easy to type. Something like ASDQWE123 is a lot easier, has letters and numbers, and can be done with one hand on the left side of the keyboard, and now I have to go change my Netflix password. And finally, I'm a strong proponent of science. I love science. Science answers questions that we all have about literally anything. But there are times that scientists can make really fun stuff kind of boring. Like when Earther asks what would happen if half the population of all life on the planet was erased by Thanos' snap. Turns out that some ecosystems would be fine, mosquitoes would reestablish their old population levels over the course of a summer, but other animals would tilt closer to extinction than ever before. I mean, I get it, Earther, the SEO value of Thanos, Snap, Avengers, and Infinity War is pretty strong right now, but let's not let something like fact ruin a perfectly good narrative. So that's going to do it for today's Digit Daily. And if you'd like to learn more about any of these stories, check out the links in the show notes and subscribe to our daily newsletter on Digit.com. And if you like what you heard, subscribe, leave a review, and don't forget to tell your friends about DigitDailyPod.com. Once again, I'm Adam Dowd, Dead Technology on Twitter, and we'll talk again tomorrow.